What's going on, everybody? I know it has been a very, very, very long time since I posted, but I've just had so much going on in my personal life, and I'm taking a new graduate level class this semester, so yeah, 2025 has been off to a very busy and very overwhelming start so far. So, yeah, I kind of just had to step away from YouTube for, this is probably nearly the 2 month mark at the time of filming this. But yeah, finally making this. I've been intending on making this for a little while, but I kind of this is a pretty big video, and yeah. So today we're going to be looking at which coasters from the Six Flags chain could be removed next. Now, we're going to be looking at every park in the chain, and I want to say there was about 40 different coasters we're discussing in this video, which is pretty gnarly when you think about it. Now, I'm going to be rating all of these on a risk scale from 1 to 10. 1 being it is at no risk of being removed whatsoever, and spoiler, I do not think any of these that I'm going to talk about in this video are a 1. And a 10 being it could be gone as soon as this year, or it might already be in the process. Now, there are only like 2, maybe 3 coasters in this list. I think that that's the case. But yeah, we'll get to those when the time comes. And kind of, the purge that started at the end of the 2024 season with all the rider removals, I think it's kind of what sparked making this. And this list is 3 times as long as it would have been like a year ago if I was making this. So yeah, we're going to start off with the park that does not need any more rides removed, Great Adventure. And I got 2 that I'm going to be listing in this video. Now, before anyone goes bash me in the comments for this one, I do still think El Toro is at moderate risk of being removed, even with the massive retrack project announced. However, I think, the fact that the park announced that retrack project, I think definitely does bring the risk down a lot. However, given the way things have been going at this park lately, I cannot trust it 100%. The fact that it had 2 major incidents back-to-back years, I think if it has another one, it's goodbye from there. But even that, I could see Zimmerman just wanting to, cut the losses, not even do the retrack project, and just scrap it. I unfortunately could see that. How high is that chance? I don't think it's too high, but I kind of feel like we should be ready. So yeah, I'm going to be putting El Toro at a 5 for now. It was a 10 just not even 24 hours before the retrack was announced. So I think that the retrack project, will help sustain its long-term longevity at the park. But if it has another incident, it's done for no matter what. But even not, the way that things have been going at this park lately, the trust level of confidence is just not quite where I want it to be. Now the next one. Now the next one, Medusa. There actually has been a rumor going around about this closing as soon as the end of next year. I don't doubt it for a second. I honestly feel like this thing has been running on borrowed time for probably since before COVID. There was a rumor in like 2018, while this was Bizarro, they were gonna, demolish this and demolish that theater right next to it and put something big in there. And that theater right next to it has been sitting vacant since COVID. So, yeah, half a decade nearly at this point. So, I could totally see it, and Medusa's kind of been running rougher and rougher throughout the years. I've been showing its age, and it only really has a line during Fright Fest or when it's on one train. Or when the ops start stacking like crazy. So yeah. Its popularity is definitely not there, showing its age, and I think that rumor going around, I think, is the icing of the cake. I think Medusa's future is definitely not looking good. Like, the rumors next year, but I could even see the end of this year, to be honest, so especially with the way things have been going at Great Adventure as of late. It will kind of hurt to lose this because it was my first big looping coaster ever, but I'm putting this at a 10. Yeah, I think if it was me, I'd say I would get ready to say Final Go as Medusa probably as soon as the end of the 2025 season. Now on to Magic Mountain, which I think is, if everything I'm predicting is correct, is about to take about as big a hit as Great Adventure just did. Now for Magic Mountain, I got 5 different ones I'm gonna be. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 6 different ones I'll be listening to this video. The first one. Yes, I think X2 is at serious risk of leaving us in the not too distant future. Like, I think its future was already looking bleak even before the recent Engineika incident. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Just because of how maintenance intensive it is, and clearly, the Icon excuse did not save Kingda Ka. It ain't saving this. And so yeah, I think that the Engineika incident, I think, puts this at very serious risk of leaving in the not too distant future. It pains me to say, because I've wanted to ride this nearly my whole life, and it seems as if unless they get to Magic Mountain this year, it probably ain't happening. So, yeah, I hate to say it, I think X2 is a 10. Now, on to the next one. Superman Escape from Krypton. Now, this is one of those where, remember I was saying at the beginning of the video that I think some might already be in the process of being removed? I think that this is one of them. There's been no announcement yet, but it has been standing but not operating for, I want to say 6 months. I think since Labor Day weekend, could even been earlier than that. Yeah. And this has also been a maintenance landlord over the years, and this did not mean the same thing. This does not mean the same thing to Magic Mountain as Kingda Ka does to Great Adventure. So, yeah, I have no confidence in Superman Escape from Krypton's future at all. I think that this thing is like, this thing I think is already about done. Yeah, that absolutely a 10. I would not go lower, and I would be very shocked if this ever runs again, to tell you the truth. Now the next one. Now this one I'm a lot more conflicted. Ninja. Mostly because Arrow's a defunct manufacturer, and therefore it's harder to get parts for it, and they did remove Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I can see, especially with this new management, I can see a lot of the Arrow suspended coasters in the Six Flags chain falling under the same fate. Now, how soon do I think Ninja's gonna be removed? I'm really not sure. So I'm putting this as 6 for now. I think we're gonna see Superman and X2 gone way before Ninja, but I'd say a 6. I think that's appropriate. Now the next one. Viper. Now this, I would not be surprised to see this removed in the not too distant future. It's really the only Arrow Mega Looper left. And I think the same thing kind of applies to Ninja in that Arrow's a defunct manufacturer, it's significantly harder to get parts for it. And I don't even think it's too popular in the park anyway, so I feel like that kind of fits a lot of the categories that they're, basing rides on to remove them now. So, I do not think Viper's future is looking good at all. I put it at a 9. I don't think it's a 10. I think we will see X2 and Superman removed first. But I'd say a 9. Now, Scream, this one I was a little bit, I was not a little, I was very conflicted with putting this on the list. But I think if Medusa at Great Adventure does go, then I think that this is a possibility too, seeing it's pretty much the same ride. And I've heard that this has generally been running pretty rough over recent years, and it really seems very unneeded in Magic Mountain's lineup. I'm putting this at only a 7 for now. I definitely don't think it's one of the heavy contenders at Magic Mountain, but yeah, I'd say a 7. That's appropriate. Now the next one. Riddler's Revenge. Now, despite it being considered, it's widely considered the best stand-up by a lot of people. I think it being a stand-up alone, I think puts it at risk. I think the removal of Green Lantern. I don't think really any of the B&M stand-ups are free of risk, even the good ones like this. And stand-ups are generally not a very popular ride model among the GP, which, understandably so. I was one of those actually didn't mind Green Lantern, but if you don't ride it the right way, it can be very painful. So that is understandable to some degree. Now, I don't think that this is an immediate danger, but the fact that Green Lantern was just removed, I can't exclude it. I'm putting this at an 8. Now on to Fiesta Texas. Now, I had Kid Flash on the list, but it was announced, I want to say, I don't even think it was announced, but it was removed from the website 3 to 4 days ago, so I decided to just scrap that, and, well, I got something right. Now, there's only two on, no, only two for Fiesta Texas, which are, one of them is Poltergeist, and the only reason I even put this on here is because there have been rumors of both Flight of Fears closing, and since this is basically the same ride, I think whatever happens to both Flight of Fears will happen to this and the other one on the chain, spoiler alert, in the not too distant future. And LAMs are a very outdated launch system, which I think is the main thing that puts this at risk. Now, is it immediate risk? I don't think so. I don't even know if it could be the same year as both Flight of Fears. It could be like 1 to 2 years later. I'm putting this at a 7 for now. Now the next one. Now the next one's Boomerang. Now I've heard that theirs is actually decently well maintained, so I don't know. I don't think they're gonna remove it, but I could see an upgrade, like maybe with vest restraints, maybe new wheels. But that's really all I could see. I don't think there's a very high chance that they're gonna demolish it, but it's not 0. I'll put it at a 7. And I think if anything happens to this, it's probably still a number of years away. Now on to Over Texas. One that I am very concerned about in the near future is Mr. Freeze. Yeah, I think that this thing is done for. Markers were actually spotted there by the ride earlier this year, and this thing has been a maintenance headache for a long time. And I would not be surprised if they just want to dust their hands off of this sooner rather than later. And yeah, I think it's a 10. I wouldn't be surprised if we see all the LAM launches in the chain removed, to be honest. But I think that this one's next. Like, I could see this at the 2025-2026 removal easily. Now, the other one is Shockwave. Now, I think all the Schwarzkopfs in the chain are at risk of being removed just because parts are really not obtainable anymore now that Schwarzkopf has, went defunct. But I don't think that this is as immediate trouble as Mr. Freeze. But I would say a solid 8. Now, I know there'll be a lot of people very upset if they remove both of these, but Six Flags does not care about that, and Kingda Ka is a prime example. So, yeah, I definitely don't think Shockwave is free of risk at all. Now on to Over Georgia. Now, I had just like for Fiesta Texas, I had Kid Flash on the list originally for Georgia as well, but I have since taken that off since they more or less confirmed the removal. So now, we got Georgia Scorcher. Pretty much what could be said for Riddler's Revenge applies here. I wouldn't be surprised if they do exit in the near future just because it's a stand-up. They're generally not a very well-liked model, even though this is just like Riddler's Revenge is considered one of the better ones. But I mean, Green Lantern kind of was too, and they just got rid of that. So yeah, I could see Georgia Scorcher going, but I don't think it's in the too near future. I'm putting this at an 8. Now the next one. Now the next one is Riddler Mindbender. Now I think pretty much everything I said about Shockwave applies here. I mean, this just got upgrades recently, but I've actually heard it's been running worse with the upgrades, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't think this thing has that much time left. I think an 8 out of 10 is justified. Now on to Six Flags America. Oh boy. So yeah, this is a park that does not need any rides removed, but I've got 3 that I'll be covering in this video. Now, the biggest one, Batwing, I think we could see this gone as soon as the end of this year. I mean, yeah, Vekoma Flyers are pretty much a defunct ride model now. And if they just axed Nighthawk, and this one is even more of a maintenance nightmare than Nighthawk is, clearly this thing is, it's running on borrowed time. This thing is running on life support at this point. I would be very shocked if it makes it past this season, to be honest. Yeah, this is a definite 10. This is probably, I'm not even not ranking them based on this. This might even be top 5 highest risks in the chain, if we're being honest. Now the next one. Now the next one is Firebird. This is mostly due to a lack of, even though this, upgrade was relatively recently, like 5, 6 years ago, this is mostly on here due to a lack of popularity among the GP and enthusiasts. I mean, I know people throw around the term of smoothest B&M in Maryland, but yeah, that's not saving it, I don't think. And quite frankly, the park could do something so much better with that space. And so, yeah, I really don't think there's going to be any benefit to keeping this. I'll put it at a 9. I don't think it's going before Batwing, but I don't think we're that far from seeing this gone either. Now the last one was Six Flags America. Now Joker's Jinx. Now pretty much everything I said to Poltergeist applies here. I think whatever happens to both Flight of Fears, this will follow. Again, whether it's the same year or 1 to 2 years later, I don't know. But yeah, the fact that LAM's an outdated launch system, I think automatically puts us at risk. But I don't think it's an immediate removal. Like, I don't think it's a 2025 removal like Batwing is. But I'll put this at 7. No one to Six Flags Great America. Now the first one we'll be covering is Max Force. Now I know that this did just open in 2019. However, it's been a maintenance nightmare since, and the launch system is, I don't think it's quite as maintenance heavy as Kingdom Cause, but it's pretty up there. And yeah, very unreliable. And quite frankly, I don't think that this is going to make it to the 15-year mark. I don't think, it's getting removed in the immediate future. But because of all of that, I could see, maybe the next 5 years. I'll put this at an 8. Now, on the next one. Flash Vertical Velocity. Now, spoiler alert, I think all of the instrument impulses in the chain are at moderate risk minimum. But there's only one that I think is going to be gone in the near future. Now, this one, I think, the demise of Wicked Twister, I think, is pretty much going to start even though it's pre-merger, I think that's pretty much going to start, the demise of the Instrument Impulses. As they get older, they're going to be harder to maintain. And so, yeah, I think we could see this gone in the next, I think Max Force will go before this, but, next 10 years maybe. I'll put this at 7. Now the last one for Six Flags Great America. Now, the last one for Six Flags Great America, we got Demon. Now, pretty much everything I said for all the other Arrow Loopers pretty much applies here. And again, it's another one of those, it doesn't seem very needed in the ride lineup. And, yeah. I don't think this is an immediate removal. Like, I think we will see Viper from Magic Mountain gone before this. But I'll put it at an 8. Now, the next park is a smaller park in upstate New York. Grayscape. Grayscape, I think there wasn't much to choose from, first of all, and I don't think there's only really one that's even above a moderate risk, and that would be Steam and Demon. And yeah, this ride's very hated among enthusiasts. It's very hated among the GP as well. And, I've never been to Grayscape. I've heard, even on a packed day where everything else is an hour or an hour plus, this thing will be a walk-on all day. And quite frankly, I really don't think they'd be losing much of anything if they did get rid of this. I have no hesitancy putting it at a 9. I debated on putting Flashback on this list, but I've heard that theirs is pretty well maintained, so I think it's going to be fine. But this, I don't think we're too far away from seeing this gone. Now on to Frontier City, as if they need any rides removed. Now the first one, now this would be a massive blow to the park, I'm aware, but Diamondback. Yeah, this is really only one of two Arrow shuttle loops left, and this thing, I think it's had just about enough of it at this point. And yeah, it's been a maintenance nightmare for a long time, and Arrow being a defunct manufacturer does kind of add to the challenges here. And yeah, this one was tough to score just because Frontier City pretty much runs off of this ride. But I could see Zimmerman wanting to cut the losses and just axe it no matter what. And I mean, quite frankly, this park's future is very uncertain, but I'm putting Diamondback out of 10. I don't think it has much left at all. Now the next one. Now this is one I forgot even existed at that park, Silver Bullet. Now pretty much everything I said about the other Schwarzkopfs can pretty much apply here. And yeah, I don't mean removing this and Diamondback in the same year would be absolutely idiotic from a park perspective. But yeah, quite frankly, I think we're gonna see this gone in the not too distant future as well. It's not quite the 10 that Diamondback is, but it's an 8. Now on to Six Flags Mexico. Now, since their Boomerang was just announced to be getting an upgrade this coming season, I decided to not include that on the list. The only thing that I'm really including is the SLC, and even them removing it, I'm really not too sure. I think if anything, it's going to be a massive upgrade, like with new trains, kind of like what Six Flags America just got. So I'll put it at an 8. But like I said, I think an upgrade is a lot more likely than a removal in this scenario. Still got a ways to go. Now on to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Now the first one we're going to be covering has actually been standing but not operating for over a year at this point. Their flash vertical velocity, I think, is done at this point. It was a maintenance nightmare really the whole time it's been there, at least as of recent years. But I think the fact that it's been standing and operating for over a year, like Superman Escape from Krypton, I would be stunned if this ever runs again. And yeah, I don't think this has anything left at this point. 10 all day long. When I said highest risk in the chain, what do I think is the highest risk in the chain? I think it's either this or Superman Escape from Krypton, to be honest. Now on to the next one. Now, Kong is kind of in the same situation as all the RSLCs on this list. I don't really know if I see it being removed, but I could see a substantial upgrade and make it an actually enjoyable ride experience. I'm putting this at an 8. I think an upgrade and an overhaul is more likely than a removal, but I'm not ready to take that off the table either. Now one more for Discovery Kingdom. Boomerang, I think pretty much the same things apply. I think, if anything is going to happen to it in the near future, it's going to be an upgrade rather than demolishing it. But this park also has the challenge of not being able to go above 150 feet with their rides because of I think it's the town's height limit or the city's height limit. I'm really not sure. But yeah, I think if anything's going to happen to the Boomerang, it's an upgrade. But I'm going to put this at an 8. I think something will be happening to it. It's just a matter of what and when. Now on to Six Flags St. Louis. Yes, I think the Mr. Freeze is at very high risk of going as well. I think pretty much everything, with the exception of the markers, everything I said about the Over Texas one pretty much applies here, and I think what happens to that will happen to this either the same year or not too long after. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's over for this ride. I'm putting this at 10. Now on to the next one. Yeah, I know I sound like a broken record with these boomerangs, and especially that this is the most recently added one in the chain. But yeah, I think it's either being removed or or a massive overhaul. I think option two is probably more likely. It's just a matter of when. I'm putting this at 8, but I think the next coaster there to, be removed in the immediate future is Mr. Freeze. Now on to Six Flags New England. I had a tougher time with this one, and there's only one that I think is, at any risk really of being removed, and that would be Flashback. And I thought this thing was an incredibly brutal piece of shit the last two times I wrote it, so I would not complain for 1 second if this did get the axe. But I could see them upgrading it or giving it upgrades just like they did Flying Cobras like Carowinds. Yeah, I could see that, or they could also just scrap it and just put something entirely new in that spot. I could see that too. I'll put this at 8. And quite frankly, I don't think it's really too popular among the general public either. Now on to Cedar Point. Yeah, Cedar Point's got a couple on here. Now the first one, Gemini, pretty much, I don't think it's really too popular at the park, and aero parts are pretty hard to come by in this day and age with the being a defunct manufacturer. And so yeah, I think there has been rumors going around about this for a little while, and quite frankly, I could see it. I don't know how soon it's going to be, but I can see it. I'm going to say an 8. Now on to the next one. Now the next one. There are rumors going on about this even longer than Gemini, and quite frankly, despite it being a fairly iconic ride at the park, I would believe it, and that would be Corkscrew. Now, I got to ride it once, and the corkscrews at the end, which are the the iconic part of the ride, were very, very brutal. Remember, the rest of it was okay. And yeah, I think a lot of these aero loopers are gonna be biting the dust in the not too distant future. I think Anaconda was really the start of that. And yeah, I don't think this has that much time left. I would be fairly comfortable putting this at a 9. Now on to the next one. Now we're looking at Cedar Creek Mine Ride. And pretty much everything I've said for the arrows does pretty much apply here. I know I kind of sound like I'm repeating myself, but quite frankly, the descriptions for some are, very similar. And I mean, it doesn't really help when some of them are the same exact ride to begin with. And so, yeah, I think we will see Corkscrew Gun before this, but I'm going to say 8. Now, one more for Cedar Point, which might be a little more of a shocker. And that would be Rougarou. Now, this is mostly due to a lack of popularity and really not being needed in Cedar Point's lineup. I mean, I'm sure it's bad. I mean, I never got to ride it as Mantis. I only got one ride on this. From what I remember, the first half was actually pretty good, and the second half was absolutely brutal. But yeah, I think the forest trains probably did help it, but I think the track was just aging by that point. And so, yeah, and it seems as if a lot of enthusiasts, a lot of the general public seem to have that same opinion. So, yeah, I think they could do something so much better with this space. And so, I think Rougarou will be going, but it's not going to be for a little bit. I'm putting this at 6. Now on to Kings Island. Yeah, another park with some decently big hitters. Now the first one is the Bat, and yeah, I think it being an aero suspended coaster, I think alone puts it at risk. But I think another thing that's gonna be highly considered here is the derailment they had about 3 years ago. If it has another thing like that, then it's done. But quite frankly, I could see Zimmerman just looking back at that and just wanting to exit. And yeah, I've heard a lot of rumors about this one, and quite frankly, I don't think we're far away from seeing its demise. I'm putting it at a 9. It would be a shame, because I did really enjoy this one, but We got to look at it from a whole different perspective now. In Vertigo, seeing that this is the only ride model of its kind left, I'm shocked that they have not taken this down yet. And yeah, this is another one. Doesn't I mean I enjoy the attraction, but doesn't really seem very needed in Kings Island's lineup. And I think if they took this out and they took the bad out, you know, that leaves some substantial room for something massive. And so, yeah, I would say I don't think Vertigo has too much time left. I would say a 9. I had it at a 10 originally, but I decided a 9 instead. Now one more for Kings Island. Now, Flight of Fear. I've heard rumors about that this could close as soon as this year, and I've ridden 2 Flight of Fears. One of them was actually pretty decently maintained. One of them felt like they hadn't maintained it in like 15 years, and that would be this one. And yeah, this thing either needs some excessive help in the maintenance category, or it's got to go. This was one of the worst coasters I've ever ridden. And yeah, I think I would have came out with a bloody nose if it had over-the-shoulder restraints. Yeah, I think. And yeah, I think the LAMs being an outdated launch system, I think definitely puts this at risk. Even like I don't think the Spaghetti models are as maintenance problematic maintenance wise as the Mr. Freeze clones, but I would put this at a 7 still. Now on to Carowinds. Now the first one we're going to be discussing is Vortex. Now, how this hasn't been removed yet kind of baffles me. Just seeing how generally hated it is at the park. And I've heard that, stamps are a very hated ride model as is. I've heard this is one of, if not the worst, that's still around. And, yeah, seeing that Nighthawk just went, I don't think we're far away from seeing this gone either. I would be very shocked if it makes it past 2026, let's say. I'm putting this at a 10. Now on to the next one. Carolina Cyclone. Wouldn't be shocked to see this gone relatively soon as well. Pretty much everything I said for the Aero Loopers can apply here, and I don't think this one is very popular in the park anymore either. And yeah, and I think there were markers spotted by this back in, I think it was right around COS closing weekend. People were posting there were markers spotted by Carolina Cyclone, so I think that's usually not a good sign. So yeah, I think we will see Vortex gone first, but this is a 9. And I personally hate this ride anyway, so I would not be sad to see this go. Now one more for Carowinds. Now the next one I think is Now the next one's Hurler. I don't really think this is going to be removed per se. I think we're looking at GCI retrack or Titan track for this more than likely. I'm not going to rule RMC out either. That would actually be an amazing fit there, but I don't know if they're going to go down that route. Yeah, I think some sort of modification is a lot more likely than a removal, but I don't think I'm going to take the removal off the table either. I'm putting this at 7. Now on to Knott's Berry Farm. Yeah, given what just happened with Ka and the headaches Top Thrill 2 has been having, I am concerned about Accelerator's future. Despite that it was just closed for a year and a half for maintenance, I think, it's a hydraulic launch, and yeah, I think those are pretty much dying breed at this point. I don't think it's quite a hydraulic launch, but yeah, I think we're looking at this thing being gone in the not too distant future. Like, I think if they're willing to take out Kingda Ka, and this is still a pretty big I can't speak today, I'm sorry. This is still a pretty big nightmare maintenance-wise, so I don't think this has much left. I'm putting this at a 9. only because there is one coaster at the park that I think is at much higher risk. And I'm sure a lot of you probably know where I'm going with this. Yeah, Montezuma's Revenge has been sitting vacant for nearly 3 years at this point, and supposedly what I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but what I've heard is that several manufacturers have backed out of the refurbishment project over the past like 3 years. So, quite frankly, I would be very surprised if they actually go through with it at this point, especially in that, they can't get parts from Schwarzkopf anymore. Yeah, I don't think this is ever gonna run again. Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, Montezuma's Revenge is absolutely a 10. Now on to Valleyfair. Now the first one is Steel Venom. Pretty much everything I said about all the other Intimate Impulses applies here. I don't think it's gonna be like, I think the first one we're going to see gone is Flash Scary Kingdom, but this could be the next like 4 to 5 years. And I mean, the only reason I'm like really delaying it that much is because Valleyfair doesn't have a lot to begin with. So I'm putting this at a 7 still on the next one. Ugh, yeah, I've heard a lot of rumors going around about Excalibur, and given the situation with Arrow, I would not be surprised if we see this gone soon. I don't think it's gonna be this year, but we're probably like maybe 2, 3 years away from seeing this gone. We're seeing this gone. I'm putting this at an 8. Now on to Dorney Park. Now, there's only one coaster at Dorney that I'm really at least moderately concerned about, and even that, this isn't gonna be like a 10 or anything like that, and that would be Possessed. Pretty much everything I said about the other intimate impulses pretty much applies here, but yeah, I don't think this is gonna be removed in the immediate future, but maybe by the end of the decade. I'm putting this at a 7. Now on to King's Dominion. Now, if you were asking me back in December, I would have put Anaconda on this list, and I nailed that, so good job. Now the only one that I'm really moderately concerned about, because the rumor going around and its launch system is Flight of Fear. Now, this Flight of Fear, unlike the Kings Island one, was not atrociously rough. It had its rough patches, but I was able to tolerate it. By that I mean I was able to ride it and actually enjoy it and not come out nearly like with a concussion like with the Kings Island one. And so, yeah. The launch system and the rumors are really the only reason I even have this on here. I'll put it at 7. Really, just time will tell on this one. Now on to World of Fun. Now, I had Timberwolf on this list originally too, and then they more or less confirmed something was happening to it a few days ago. Don't know if it's being removed or, getting a massive overhaul, but it's not opening at all for the 2025 season. So I think that that's definitely the start of something. What? I don't know yet, but it's the start of something. So I took that off the list, and I'm just keeping Boomerang on here instead. Now, I'd say it's an 8. I don't think, I don't know how far away we are from seeing like an overhaul. Might still be a couple years away if they're, doing something with Timberwolf now. But yeah, I could totally see it. Now on to Shige's Adventure. Now, this is a park, yeah, given so little attention to this park, I'd be surprised they even removed anything. But I just put Wolverine Wildcat on here just because, I was looking at all the coasters there. That was the one I saw had the most potential to get removed. But even that, I don't think, we're still a long way away from seeing it. I'm going to say a 5. Oh, 2 more parks, and we're done. Now on to the Rond. Now the first one is Le Monstre. yeah, I've heard this has not been very popular in a long time. I've heard this is a brutally rough ride. And yeah, I just heard many not good things about this one. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, they haven't given this park very much attention at all over recent years, but I could see this getting the axe, or maybe Titan Track. But I think in this scenario with this park, I think the axe is probably more likely. I am perfectly fine with putting this at an 8. Boomerang. I know I kind of sound like a broken record here, but I could see them either demolishing it or upgrading it. I think, I could see either or. I just don't. It's just a matter of when. It's an 8. Now on to the last one for the round. Following the trends, I think their SLC could be at least somewhat risk. Now, it was just added in 2010 or 11, I want to say, and it was the last coaster they got, too, as far as I know. And I think it was relocated, and I've heard that this one is brutal from a lot of people, so it definitely could use some kind of upgrade. How soon will that be? I don't know, but I can see it. It's at 8. Now on to the final part of the video. Canada's Wonderland. Time Warp. Yeah, this thing has been rumored for a couple years, and I'm honestly amazed that they have not gotten rid of it yet. I've heard this is one of the worst coasters in the world from many people that have ridden it, and even for seeing, based on the POVs I've seen, I do not doubt it for a second. Yeah, this thing just got it. This thing's got to go. I might actually be going to Canada's Wonderland next year, but so yeah, this might be just wishful thinking. This game room might just be wishful thinking to some degree, but quite frankly, it has been a rumor going around for quite some time. And yeah, one can dream, right? I'm putting this out of 10. Now, the other piece of shit right next to it. Yeah, I neglected to point out that I did not actually get to ride Time Warp when I went because it was closed all day for high winds. Which I suppose is maybe a blessing, but I did get to ride the other brutal coaster right next to it. And, yeah. I don't think a single person would complain if Flight Deck went as well. And, this is Time Warp, getting rid of both of them together makes too much sense to not do it, and it opens up a decent plot of land for something big. I think, I could see these both closing the same year. Man, a lot of these other SLCs in the chain, I've been, kind of reluctant to say they're going to exit. This, I think, has the best chance. I'm putting it at 10. Now on to the next one. Now, Drakenfire, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I think is also, at some risk of being removed. I don't think it's as high as Time Warp or Flight Deck, but quite frankly, I could see it. Mainly due to the same reasons as a lot of the other arrows on the list. I think I could put it, I'm going to put this at 8. Now, 2 more. Bat at Canada's Wonderland. It's another boomerang. I think, they're either going to axe it or upgrade it, which I don't know, but I could see either or. It's an 8. Now, last coaster of the video. Vortex. This one I was a lot more unsure, and quite frankly, of all the Arrow Spedic coasters I listed in this video, I think this is probably the lower end of them as far as, risk of getting removed. Just because of its interactions with Wonder Mountain, but quite frankly, I could still see it. I'll put it at a 6. Now, you'll probably notice I did not mention California's Great America at all in this video. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure the inevitable is going to happen with that park. It's just a matter of when. And so, yeah, if the whole park is closing, then that pretty much puts all the rides at a 10. Some of them I could see getting relocated, but not all of them. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm not gonna lie, this was a very exhausting video to make, talking about 40 Killsters, but yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been this topic has sparked a lot of interest over recent months for the wrong reasons, but it has nonetheless. So that's here's my take on it. You guys enjoyed.